Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 597 podcast. Today, we have a special guest, my lovely wife, Anne, because the topic that we're talking about today, I would say it's a pretty hot topic, and sometimes, we don't always agree, but we're going to try and unravel this idea in this new day and age about gender roles. Why did you want to talk about this topic? Because when I asked you what do you want to talk about this time, and we kind of brainstormed a little bit, and then we decided on gender roles. Like, what specifically made you think about this? Like, do you think about this on a daily basis? Is it something you see in the workplace? Is it something you see in your life, or just in society in general?
It's just something I'm noticing in my own life, I guess. I suppose I like today, even today's my day off, and I've washed clothes. I made the bed, like as in changed the sheets and vacuumed the floor, so wash dishes. So it's like I'm doing these so-called female tasks all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and not all the time, but we share the load here. So it is something I think about, and you know, going off the podcast that never was the last, the first recording. I wouldn't mind being a stay-at-home father, for
Okay.
the record. So yeah. Um, so I do think because I think I read an article recently that said that it's about a third of households where the wife earns more money than the husband, and she's actually the breadwinner.
Okay.
So it's still not the most common, but it is getting more and more common. So I wouldn't mind being part of one of those households.
So Anne and I talked about this as well because we the whole "what if I become a famous singer" type of deal.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me it's because I, I hate talking about how I think because I don't want people to feel a certain way. Just because I am a certain way doesn't mean I think less of other people who don't think this way. So I just want to state that, okay? Because I have a specific mindset and a specific goals. If people don't follow that, I
Hmm.
don't think that they're less. So
I wonder.
let's put that
I've
out
been
there.
thinking about it. Have you guys discussed if it's to do with? Well, actually, just say what it is that you disagree with that situation.
We've talked about it. If she were to become a famous singer, she was on the road, um, you know, touring, making bank. I would not mind being at home with the kids, you know, taking care of the kids, cooking, doing the laundry, cleaning,
Hmm.
whatever. When she's home, I would then still pursue what I want to do because I'm if I don't have hardship and what's the word, challenges and stuff like that in my life, it, I could get depressed. I
Hmm.
cannot just sit at home, and I'm not saying like cooking, cleaning, those are not hard tasks. I just have like personal things, boxes that I need to check. So knowing that I've done something very difficult today, that's something that's hard to do. Like for example, like jujitsu is somebody's trying to choke you, trying to get out of a headlock, and it's developing skills. So if she was home, then I would work on like my goals. And then, she hits the road again, then I focus on the kids and stuff like that. So we would have to find a way to make it work, I guess, for the both of us. Because I need some type of competition in my life. I don't know if
You know,
I don't know if I need therapy for that. I don't know if I need if I need to
I,
work with somebody for that, but that's my mindset right now.
the reason why I was asking was because I wonder if it's because you grew up in Suriname, and I know in Suriname it'd probably be it's very normal for the man to be the breadwinner there,
Yeah.
and men are very like, oh, it's a very it's a different place.
Yeah.
Women are a bit more old school.
Yeah.
Men are a bit more old school. So you grew up like that for a long time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You've only been in America for 5 years, so I wonder if that is something to do with the way you're thinking.
Yeah, well, I remember once Miguel went and got a haircut. Can I tell the haircut story?
Which one? In Suriname or
You in Suriname. you got a haircut.
I don't
You were
remember
talking
the
to the hairstylist. You mentioned that you were married to an American. He's like, oh, that's so great. Like, I want to be married to an American too. And Miguel's like, listen, you need to know something about this. Like, it's not like she works, and because she works, she very much is like, you need to help with the house. And like, I had this conversation about how his life had changed a little bit, being married to an American, what that meant. And at the end of the conversation, the hairstylist did not want to be married to an American anymore.
Yeah, I remember. I'm like, no one.
It's like, and it's
Yeah, but he's working as well, so would be a different situation there. I think.
Yeah.
But that was something, it is different. It is
different culturally, yeah.
Different culturally.
Yeah,
because I wonder if I'm not so opposed to it, because most, like, I would say more than half my life I've grown up here, where it's probably a bit more, how'd you say that? A bit more forward thinking than Suriname.
Yeah. But also, so, like, for example, right? So sometimes there are successful men that date women that, are not as successful, and, they basically put them in a house and take care of everything. And some women are okay with that. If, for example, if Anne was successful, before we met, she was like successful, she was a singer, I would still do the exact same things that I'm doing right now, which is like pursuing and working and working really hard. So it's just, I don't know, it's just in me. It's really hard. It's really hard to change that mindset. But as we talked about it, I'm not opposed to it. I would, stay at home with the kids, cook, clean. But I would have
and it's
to
not
find...
like it's the freaking 1800s where you have to wash the clothes in the river.
Like,
you just throw them into a machine.
We have a dishwasher too, so it's like
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
Look at that.
But it's not those. It's not the task. It's the idea of
what I'm saying
yeah.
is you have a lot more free time than women in the past.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Washing clothes would take the whole morning, whereas you just throw it in the machine for an hour or whatever, and it's done.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What do you think?
So you would have time to do stuff while the kids were at school.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just constantly
doing those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt trapped for a second. Like, wait, I won't be able to do jiu-jitsu, go to the gym, like work, do kickboxing, all of these things. Like, I can't live a life like that. But like, yeah, you're right. There's time in there where you could still do those things, and I think I'll probably be way better at it too, because I probably have more time to do those things.
Well, if you have the energy, I mean, especially if kids are young, that is draining. It's like very draining. Yeah. And it can be challenging in its own way. You're talking about mentally stimulating. I mean, there's planning, your mind is honestly, like, probably, especially if they're very young, on a constant lookout for danger and like adrenaline filled to some extent for the kids. I mean, yeah. I babysat this last week and I took a nap after because I was like, I'm tired.
Where do you guys think it comes from, the whole gender roles thing?
We see it. We see it in society. We see it in history, how it came up. I mean, and I think like the Roman Empire, maybe it's either the Roman Empire or the Greek Empire. Women weren't considered citizens. They wouldn't have citizenship, and so we see, even in the Bible, in ancient history, a lot of women, not all women, but women needing to take care of the house and them not getting the same opportunities. But, in the start of the 1900s, we really saw that shift, and especially in America with like the factory girls, women now understanding and being able to have job opportunities that they could, if they wanted to, not have to be married. But so much of their hopes and futures was linked to, if I get married, then I will be able to have this stability. And now women can start to get their stability on their own. I
also think, and I think we talked about this last time, is our society tends to overcorrect as well, right? Like, so, for example, I think when was it the Second World War? men were basically being shipped out to go fight, and then like women had to start also like working in the factories and
It was
those stuff
both.
like, wasn't it?
Both.
Both wars?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I also think that based on our what's the word? Our biology and our chemistry, I think
Hmm.
there are certain roles that women are better at, and there are certain roles that men are better at. Like we both have our strengths and our weaknesses, and I think that's why marriage is such a beautiful thing because we complement each other weaknesses, right? Like I don't think it's a I can do better than you because I'm a man, or I can do better than you because I'm a woman. It's like no, like I'm good at these things, you're good at these things. How about we form a team and then we do it together, type of deal.
Hmm.
But I do think that based off our biology or whatever chemistry, the chemicals in our head or in our body, the way we think, I do think that there are certain roles that men could do better than women and women can do better than men.
I mean, like another thing is just going on the biology thing is that women, it would make sense for them to take care of young, especially babies, because they are the food source. You know,
Hmm.
they didn't necessarily
They
have
popped out of
formula
there.
back in the day, and so it's like
Yeah.
it got it, and maybe that just kind of stuck, but it hasn't always been the most favorable, I think, for women. People kind of really
So
grabbed
so
onto that lesser sex thing and just kind of ran with it for a while.
so well, women are also referred to as the fairer sex
Mm-hmm.
because
Okay,
women are
for the
beautiful
for the
and
person
some
that
other
didn't
stuff.
speak English his entire life, what does fairer mean?
Uh,
Like,
beautiful, softer, nicer.
Oh, okay. I see.
Um. Okay, so talking about parents, what about
Wait, sorry. Before you hop on to your next point, I was thinking about this thing as well. Can you hold that thought real quick?
yeah.
So, like gender roles as well, right? Like if you think about the Saramakan tribe back home, or the Alkan tribe, or the
Hmm.
indigenous tribes, all these people that live in villages, they live in the jungle. The woman usually takes care of the kids, and she farms, she plants, right? She gardens. The men have to leave the safety of the village to go into the jungle and hunt, where they could be eaten. You know, things could happen to them. They might not come back,
Hmm.
right? So it's
There's actual been recent discovery of females being hunters.
also hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's a possibility, and that's dope.
And look at lions, man.
Oh yeah,
The, it's the females that,
yeah,
that
that's
get the
hunt.
food.
Yeah.
Because look, if you think about it even logically, it makes sense for women to go hunting as well because they have to get sustenance for their children. And that is a caring act.
and like penguins, like the woman gives birth to the penguin, but
Yeah,
then the guy
the
has
men
to
sit on
watch
the
the
eggs, don't they?
eggs, and when the woman gets to go eat and go on like a little
Yeah.
bit of a post baby vacation, well, they need to get up their strength.
They
and then come
swap. They
back.
swap shifts, I think. The woman will go fishing, then the guy will sit on the eggs, and then she'll come back, and then she'll sit. And I don't know whether it's the guy all the time,
So are you
but it could be
saying?
either way. Either way.
So are you saying it's not inherently that men want to be hunters, but it's a role that society placed on them?
Yes, I think so. Look, okay, think about it like this, right? What the point I was trying to make before was, what if it's us as well? What if we're doing it because we grew up like that? So, like, as in our parents, the way you treat your son, the way you treat your daughter, you
Mm-hmm.
treat them differently. Like, look, I lived with Omawali for a while, right,
Mm-hmm.
a year or so, and we had girls living in the house with us, and she would make the girls do the chores. She would make the girls do the washing up and the sweeping of the floors, and I wouldn't have to do any of that because there were girls living in the house. Did you grow up like that, where you didn't have to do the chores because your sisters would do them?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Um, when I'm trying to think, because when I was living with Peggy and stuff like that, they made me do the chores. Um,
Mm.
yeah, my mom spoiled me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little bit spoiled living with my mom, but no, when I was living with my sisters, they were like, "Hey, you need to clean the fridge, like do the dishes, sweep the floor and clean the yard. So it's like it was mixed. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think for me, the reason I'm so strong on this because I think is that we need to protect women, right? Like, and I know women can protect themselves, but to me, it's like they're so delicate, right? For me, like to me, like my wife is such a beautiful flower that needs to be protected.
Physically,
Just
like
in any way, in any way, right? That doesn't mean she can't take care of herself, but it's just like when I'm here, I don't want her to worry about that. I just want her to be pretty and lovely and be there just enjoying life. If that makes sense, right? So that's how I think about my role. It's like I don't want you to worry about anything. I got
no,
you. Yeah, yeah,
I understand. I
yeah,
feel the same way,
yeah.
to be
Not
honest.
saying that she's not capable or they're not
No,
capable of doing these things. It's just that's
but
how
like
I
I
feel.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
because coming off that last conversation we had last week, where you were talking about how you're supposed to not hurt the woman, like that's part of your role as a man. You know,
Mhm.
you're supposed to protect her heart.
Yeah.
I've been pretty bad this week with Naomi, because I've been waking up early, and I was being kind of mean to her in the mornings, and it all came out yesterday morning. And I was like, yeah, she's been trying to tell me all week,
Yeah.
and it's like I was misdirecting my frustration. I was frustrated at work because I
Yeah.
have to get up so early to go there, and she was just trying to be nice to me, waking me up
Yeah.
nicely, and it's like, so I understand. So yeah, that has made me think a little. Like, I have to be more careful with the way I talk, with
Yeah.
the way, like to think
Yeah.
carefully before, not just to be so explosive and express my frustration straight away. Because I'm not frustrated at her. I'm frustrated at work,
Yeah.
for making me get up so early. But so yes, I'm learning. I'm learning.
she's 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 been great in communicating. It's like Miguel, you know, you need to protect my heart, and you say you want to protect me. You need to protect me all the time, even from yourself.
I think,
Mm.
like, especially if you're in a relationship or a marriage, in our case, the man is asking for trust from the woman. I know that I wouldn't say that all men are stronger than women because there are some real strong women out there, but I would say probably
Yeah.
most men are stronger than women physically.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so they have that protection role. But you are saying, you can trust me, you can be vulnerable with me. And so if a woman gives you that vulnerability, it's not just physically, it's emotionally. And so then you have to take that seriously and be very respectful with how you are treating them. Because if you are wanting them to be vulnerable, we've talked, before, the person that can hurt me the most is Miguel. Because I'm the most
Mm.
vulnerable with him. He knows me more than any other person. He's been with me for 8 years now, and because of that, his words mean more than any other words. His actions mean more than any other actions. And so when he is not thoughtful towards those, it really, really hurts. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, we are giving, hopefully, vulnerability to guys to be like, hey, you can show your emotion. You can be sad, and I'm not going to mock you for it. You don't have to be tough and the whole time. We can be vulnerable with each other. We can have trust with each other, but we also need to understand that that is a very important thing to keep in mind, that if we are each other's safe space, we really need to be respectful of that safe space and not making it feel like I can't trust anybody, I'm alone. Those things are going to
Mm.
ruin relationships.
Can you tell him what you told me about the roles not always like the role not being there?
Oh, well, it's not fair. It's not always fair. I mentioned this last week. There is no 50-50 split. We are asking guys to put themselves second. Bible says honor others above yourself. Honor others above yourself. Their wants should come second to what the family wants, and their needs, and that might not always be the same. And at the same point, it's not always fair for the women, but we do give up a little bit of our independence. And
Yeah.
I need to understand that, because it's something we fight for. Women fight for independence, for their voice to be heard. And when we get married, we do give up a lot of that. And guys give up their independence too. And so it might not always seem fair, but the fact of the matter is, when we said I do, the Bible said the two become one flesh. We decided to be a team, and we want to be a team until death do us
Yeah.
part. And so that means we are a team, and we don't get to, we're roped together. And if you don't pull someone the other direction, you have to be like a three-legged race where you're moving forward together. If one person tries to take off before the other, you're going to drag the other person, and you're not going to win. And so it's not always fair. You can't be like, oh, this isn't fair for me. Well, it's not going to be always fair. How can you work together as a team? How can you win the three-legged race?
Yeah.
I think if you wanted to focus on yourself, then just stay alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if people are feeling that way, if they're called to be single, if they feel like I am my best self when I am single, then that's fine. That's great for them. There's a period of my life where I was single as an adult, and I thought that that's kind of probably what it was going to be. Like, I was very confused when Miguel came into my life, because I was like, I'm just going to be a single, strong woman for Christ. But, I have mental highs and mental lows, and I really think, I needed a partner. I needed a partner to kind of help me when I'm scared, to be patient with me. I really rely on that partnership.
And it's not been,
So it should be, right?
yeah, it's not been a smooth sailing, dude. It's been like up and down fights, understanding each
For
other.
both of us, not just my mental health.
No.
That's probably accurate.
No, just me understanding her understanding me. It's relationships are not easy.
No.
Couples counseling, marital counseling. I'm a big advocate for therapy. Just getting someone also there that is non-biased to talk to is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to cut you off on your point that you were trying to, because I think you wanted to make like a second point, so we kind of steered off.
No,
of
it's just about how it's it could just be the way we raise kids. Like, girls, we give them little kitchens to play house. Little dolls, little babies. Most of the dolls they have are babies, so they start taking care of their dolls straight away.
Mhm.
And boys, we give them, little police cars, little fire engines, little farm,
Mhm.
stuff which it's like it's almost like we're training them.
But okay, now let me ask you this: if you don't train your kids, who is going to?
That's the issue with modern society. This is my biggest issue with gender roles. The fact that, like, I don't care if it's the woman who stays at home or the man that stays at home. I wish one of them could stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't, because nobody can afford that unless you're
Yeah.
making a hell of a lot of money. So I think in this whole argument, this whole situation, I think that the kids are the one that are losing out, because they're being raised by schools, instead of a parent.
I mean, both. It's disappearing, the stay-at-home parent, because we both need to work.
Yeah.
It's so we're looking, if we are blessed with children, it's childcare. It's gonna need to be childcare, and I thankfully I work at a place that has a childcare, and I know the workers, and I think it's really good. And so I know what childcare I put my kids in, but not everyone knows people at the childcare, and so it is a level of trust.
But it's not like you guys. Yeah, sorry.
For your toys thing, I mean, I think that is accurate that we do have like this is girls' toys, this is boys' toys. But I think more and more with like my generation that I've noticed with parents of kids that I'm friends with is that they are, what does my kid like to do? I'm gonna buy them a toy for that, no matter what.
Yeah, it's
So
like, but then I think some people take it too far. They're like putting their sons in dresses and
Yeah.
yeah, he wanted to play with a Barbie once. Now you think he's a girl, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it can go too far,
But that's what
you
I was
know?
saying earlier. Like we tend to overcorrect, right? Like
Yeah,
it's we were never in the middle. It's like we're either on this side or we're like on the opposite end of the spectrum. So
yeah.
I think that's why conversations like this are very important. So because my wife will attest to this. I'm a very extreme person. I'm either on this side or I'm
It's
on
black or
this
white.
side.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's black
yeah.
or white. Like there's no in between. And it's something that
That's not a good thing,
yeah, it's not. It's not. It's something I need to
because
work
life
on.
is not like that.
It's something I need to work on. I agree.
Yeah.
But it's also like, what's the middle point? Because like you said, I'm not gonna put my son in a dress, right? Like I'm not doing that. Like that's
No.
no, right? If he grows up, he wants to be in a dress. Okay, fine.
what about a pangi? I know that's not a dress.
Yeah, no, yes, he could rock a panty.
Well, the Scottish guys wear skirts, don't they?
Yeah,
Kilts.
yeah. So yeah, no,
Oh.
it's hard. It's hard. It's hard for me to be in the middle. It's very hard, but it's something I'm working on.
Another thing I read was that the reason why some women might find men useless is the fact that they don't see directly that what men contribute to, because they see it as a big, I think the term was a bureaucratic entity. Like if you think about who fixes the roads, oh, the state does that, you know? But they don't see that it's the road workers that are men,
Yeah,
you know, they don't, or who builds buildings. It's this company, it's that company. They don't see it as,
man.
they don't see the men getting up early to go to these jobs, which a lot of women don't do that type of work. Um, so I think, yeah, because they don't directly see what men contribute to society anymore. Because in the past, it would be like you'd find your farmer husband and you'd see him waking up early, going to plow the fields, working very hard to put food on the table. So it's like you don't really notice that anymore. Or you saw your dad going to an office job or something.
Yeah.
You don't get to feel that sense of respect for him because you don't see him working hard. Possibly. What do you think about that?
I think so. The thinking, I think that's a point you brought up. One of the things that I think I benefited from living in another country was kind of like a world culture and just acknowledging when you enter into a culture that is different than yours. Because now that we've been in the US for the past 4 years, there's been other situations, not even just geographical, but just like, okay, this is a different culture than what I am used to, which is very Midwestern Christian. That's the culture that I'm used to. But even in the Midwest in Michigan, we have other cultures that we're not. And so I try to think about what needed to happen for this to get done. You know, and I was at Kroger's the other day, and Kroger's is a grocery store. And we have
That's
a
where
lot
Miguel plucks his fruit.
Yes.
we have a lot of self-checkouts in America, so where there's a computer and you can check yourself out and then go. But they were all down. And there's a current worker shortage in the US. There's a lot of places that don't have workers to do things. And so one of the ways, Kroger's is understaffed right now. They've been trying to hire people, but they're understaffed. So using these self-checkout things, they're able to kind of compensate that. But on the day I went to Kroger's, all of them were down. Like that, they had a computer problem.
Some people might say those are the reason why there's a staff shortage, because they've replaced so many people. Those stupid machines.
I know it. I don't always think it's the most livable wage. I think a lot of the places where we're having work shortages are places that offer wages that are not necessarily livable anymore. And so people are trying to get, okay, I need to have a job that pays $20 an hour because rent has gone up $300 in 1 year. and I need to pay for rent. so
Yeah.
and so there's that problem too. But the computers went down, and there's a long line. They managed to get some of the self checkouts going, but they were trying to solve the problem. I saw the tech person. I saw everyone that was working for Kroger's trying to be. But then I also heard people just being very complaining, and it's just like, sit back. Yes, this is an inconvenient time for this to happen. I agree. But I don't think they purposefully made the registers go down. And we see the tech person working on it. We see people trying to help with the line and trying to help people check out in ways that they can. See what is happening. Acknowledge the things that we just so automatically do or use. Acknowledge what it's taking to get done. You know, when we're on these roads, I try and look at situations. Construction is big in the Midwest because we experience 4 seasons. We have drastic heat and drastic cold. And so because of that, our roads need routinely fixed. Construction is super annoying. It slows down traffic. But you need to think about, but construction is necessary. This is necessary. You know, one day we need our roads to be updated. You know, and it's annoying, but think about why this needs to get done and why they're doing what they are doing. And that's what I try to take a step back and think. Why is this line long? Well, let's think about it reasonably. It's an attitude shift.
For me, so there was I saw this Facebook video. Were you finished with your point?
Yes.
I saw this video on Facebook where a guy on the street would ask random people. Now, I don't know if he edited all the women out that said yes to this, because I know there's trickery, you know, with content these days. But his question was, would you accept a high profile job with no pay or clean sewers for $100,000 a year? And all of the women in the video said a high profile job with no pay. And all the men in the video are like, I'm making that money. Right? So I don't know why it is that most men will do the things that are not as, you know, glorious or a little bit more harder to do and stuff like that. And also, like, the women that he has, they were all dolled up, right? Like, so I'm sure there are some women out there that would accept that job. Just like when I drive by and there's construction, I see maybe 2 women, right? Between 100
They
men.
probably see that, yeah.
Right? There are women that doing these jobs. But for some reason, more men are attracted to harder physical labor. Maybe because physically they're able to do it more. I don't know why, but also, like, women tend, like you said, are more educated than men, right, in this day and age, right?
Well,
So they go for the corporate jobs as well. Second, I think the reason why women say that men are useless, because we talked about this last week, is because in this day and age, like you said, you don't see who does the work, you just see the surface, right? Like the company and stuff like that. So if a woman needs something done in her kitchen, you know, her sink broke, whatever, she could call a service, you know, 90% of the time. My wife doesn't like when I use percentage, so I'll say most of the time. Is that a better way of saying it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have the resources documented. Percentages are
most of the time.
Yeah.
It's a man that shows up for a plumbing company, right? If you need your roof fixed, most of the time it's going, but you still need men. So you cannot say that men are useless, because when you call these services, when your tires flat, when your batteries run out, right? Like, you need to call AAA, somebody to come and help you. Most likely, most of the time, it's going to be a man that's going to come help you. But a woman in this day and age doesn't necessarily need a partner in the house, because everything is easier to access now. The surface of a man is so easy to access in this day and age, where women think,
You
you
could
know
say
what?
the same thing about a woman. You can get a nanny, you can get a maid,
Oh yeah,
you can get a women
Yeah.
that do all this stuff.
Yeah, you could
you know,
hire a maid, you could hire a nanny. Some men go to like prostitute, like if you need that
mhm.
that part.
Yeah,
Like there's nothing you,
yeah.
you can't purchase. But that's the problem in this day and age. It's we don't look for companionship anymore and somebody to build something with, right? Because even though you could hire all these services, you can't buy love, right? You can't buy companionship. You can't buy, if you're sick in bed, somebody who's gonna love you through that. You
Mhm.
you can't you can't buy those things. You can buy the
No.
services. So, but that's the problem, right? Because we don't hear a lot of men saying that women are useless, unless they're like misogynistic and haters, right? Like there's no movement against women, but
It-
there's such a huge movement against men. Like it's all over the internet
I
how men
think
are
there's
useless.
like it's not. I don't think men necessarily acknowledge that women are useless. It's that men sometimes the acknowledgement that women are less than. I see that more. Um,
Do you
versus,
think men have unearned privilege? Do you think men are privileged?
I
Because
think
every man I talk to, I think life is much harder for men than people realize.
I think it's
Like
hard.
I think women have life a bit easier. The way it seems to me.
Well, I would ask this question: Who who communicates better, typically, men or women?
Women.
I think women, we're
Women.
known for being talkers. We communicate.
Mm.
We are more vocal, probably about expressing vulnerabilities. And so, you only can, information you get is the information you hear. And we hear a lot from women. Like, I was trying to think of the high profile job might relate. I think there are more female influencers than male influencers, like on social media. And so maybe the women are
Mm.
thinking, if I have this high profile job, I don't need to get paid for that because I can use that to then get paid for this other thing and
Use
through
that
this other
leverage, yeah.
means. Yeah.
Because the men aren't thinking like that. Because I was thinking that. I was thinking if you have a high profile job, you can start an OnlyFans or something. So you can make money.
But
Yeah, I mean, not you don't specifically have to do
yeah,
that, but you can make money with that
I
high
think
profileness.
men don't always communicate or effectively with that. Um, but I don't know. I think that women have a visible goal that we're overcoming. And for men, it's something more of like what they're defending and wanting to be understood. And so women are trying to overcome and persevere, and men are trying to be understood in their way and defend. Kind of like, well, this is what we have been doing, and we're not all out to get women, and women are like, I'm gonna, my gender has been oppressed for a long time, and we will not be oppressed anymore
I also think that women are more united than men,
because we're more social.
right?
I
Like
would say.
Mm.
for example, Anne, could call her girlfriends up and say, I'm having this problem, I'm going through these and all of these things. Where
Oh, they
men,
talk about everything. Yeah,
yeah, where and
they'll have a beer.
yeah, they'll go to a bar, whatever, watch a sports game, and then drink. Where I am not opposed, as strong as I feel in my masculinity, I think that men should speak more. Now, I don't think they should complain because there's a difference. I don't think men should complain, but men should find brothers to talk
You
to.
mean like moaning, moaning? Yeah.
It's like, life is unfair. Like, I can't do it. I don't. Yeah, no, I don't think men should do that. However, I think men should be able to talk more. And because the one thing that makes a man successful most of the time is it's his pride, right? Like his pride is something he's trying to protect at all costs. So if he seems weaker than people perceive him to be, he might lose that respect, right? So in order, um, and for him to acknowledge a problem or say, I'm dealing with this, I'm going through this, men usually think that they seem weak when they do that. But that's why I said it's hard to distinguish between talking to somebody you trust, like a brother,
Mm.
um, and whining and complaining, if that makes sense. So I feel like
Because that is an issue. You don't want to be perceived as weak
yes,
to another man as well.
yes,
That is a big
yes,
problem.
yeah. And the one problem is the men don't
But
understand that seeking help is not weakness. Seeking help is what's the word? Well, like no, when you um, refusing.
it's like you're on the
So
okay.
yeah, so seeking help doesn't mean you're weak. Seeking help is refusing to give up. Sometimes you
Hmm.
need a little help. Sometimes you need that push. I am a strong component of having like brotherhood. Brotherhood is very important. So people you could trust, brothers you could be
Hmm.
vulnerable with, and I'm vulnerable with my wife. But it's hard for me to appear weak because I'm supposed to protect her. So I don't want to appear weak in front of her, right? I don't want her. I don't want to lose that respect from her. If that's not that I would, because she's an amazing woman, and she's helped me through so much. But it's just the man in me is like, man, like I can't be too vulnerable. Like,
Because there is times when you probably have sat with stuff and then when you finally let it out, you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
oh yeah, it wasn't that bad. Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So men should definitely talk
And
more.
yeah, and you can really get help from other people, such
Yeah,
as a partner. Like they can really help you.
yeah,
That's another reason why therapy is very important. Like I said, it's a non-biased person that is not interacting with you at a social level during the week.
Mm.
And so you can just let it all out and then walk and then see them again next week and they can help you because they've gone to school to learn how to help you. And I don't know the gender things of who is more willing to accept or pursue therapy. I don't know about that roles either, but once again,
It's
therapy
okay.
is
It's
great.
probably women because most psychologists are women.
yeah.
I've heard men have a hard time finding a psychologist that's a man. I think it's so. Another point that I wanted to bring up was actually that boys seem to be failing at school, and like I don't know why, but it could be that boys just like to run around and not very good at sitting down. But apparently, it's the fact that they don't have male teachers to look up to. A lot of the teachers are female, and then the psychologist thing was the fact that men might not want to open up to a woman. They might want to open up to another guy, and they find it very hard to find someone to talk to. So,
I don't know how it is in England or in America, but in Suriname, there's this saying when a dad or a mom is talking to a child about their education, they would say, "Je diploma is je eerste man."
yeah,
That bit translates to your diploma, your degree. That's your first husband, right? So,
yeah,
but nobody tells the guys anything
no,
about your
no.
diploma is your first vrouw, your first wife, right? Like it,
You're kind of just left to do with whatever you do. They don't. Nobody guides you. Nothing.
it's hard. A lot of men are suffering in silence, right? Like we talked about this, like I think 2 or 3 episodes ago. Like most
Mm.
men live lives of quiet desperation, um, and I believe people might not like this. I believe that most of the things that are going wrong in the world are men's fault. Like we have created a lot of things that became obstacles. Um, and yes, we're suffering the consequences now. And most men are trying to figure out how to be men, but they don't have great role models. And then you have people like Andrew Tate that shows up, and they're like, "Hey,
Start looking up to us, the wrong
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, that's who I want to be. Bugatti, $1 million mansion, 5 wives." And it's like, there's something beautiful about a masculine man, but that's not it. Like that's so. Like I said, man, we tend to overcorrect.
Someone that was a teacher for 10 years, I was just going through my Rolodex of classes, and I couldn't tell you that male students or female students struggled more than female students. it's so hard with school. I mean, I would say probably gender does play a role, but there is just different intelligences when it comes to learning. I mean, some people are just good at learning with their hands. If it's something that they can do, that will help them learn. Some people are good at reading intellectually. Like, I think our American school system would have helped me more than it would have helped Miguel.
And something that I wish was here is the technical school system,
Yeah.
where if you're not very academic, there's a technical school to go to where you can learn things with your hands, which I think a lot of kids could benefit that. If you started a trade at 13, 12, 13, like learning to plumb, learning to be an electrician, by the time you're 16, you could almost start your own business,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like but having to be forced to sit in a classroom and learn about history and freaking geography, it's not for everyone,
Yeah.
you know? Some people are interested in that, but like I really struggled in school.
Me
I don't
too.
even I don't have a high school diploma. I don't have a high school diploma.
And as
Yeah.
as a teacher, I tried my best. You know, a teacher, we are only one person. And Miguel can attest to the hours I would spend outside of work working to try and engage all of my students. Like, I remember for science, we were talking about kinetic energy and thermodynamics, and we had talked about internal combustion engines. And I had a student that was really into cars. And so, I mean, he could tell me how an internal combustion engine worked better than I could. And so then I was like, all right, let's build one. And I got these little kits. They were more complicated than I had thought. Miguel and I put one together, and I was like, okay. And he was one of my co-lead. I said, I need you to have a leadership role in helping our groups. And it was really great because, and it was something that I do notice that more of our male students stepped up for because it required using a screwdriver. And I noticed that more of my male students, not all, but more, had more background in using screwdrivers than my female students did. But still, by the end of that, everyone learned at least, like, how do you put a screwdriver together, how to follow, those instructions. It was kind of like, if you've never put together Legos, then that instruction manual will be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
If you have that background,
that kind of stuff
bit
helps you in the
hands.
future with all the IKEA furniture you'll have to put together.
Oh yeah, yeah. Miguel, we put together some furniture, and Miguel mocked my hammer usage a little bit because I'd be like, ding, 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 ding. But he let me hammer, and I think that was important too. He didn't just say let me do it.
My wife she has a very strong will. She's a very strong woman. Like, she's very strong. So I have to make sure that I allow her to be that strong woman sometimes when she wants to be and needs to be, because it's healthy for her too to know, like, you know what, even though I have a husband, I'm capable of doing these things, right? But sometimes I also, my role or your role as a husband, it's difficult sometimes, right? Because my wife wants me to lead, and sometimes she'll ask me a question, and I'll give you, this is what I've learned in my years of marriage. Most guys get frustrated when they ask their wife, what do you want to eat? What's the typical answer you're gonna get? Do you know?
I don't know. What do you want to eat?
Yeah, so your wife usually says, I don't know. When your wife says, I don't know, she wants you to make the decision. And most men will get frustrated because they don't want to put in that work. They don't want to be the knight in shining armor in that moment, right? When your wife says, I don't know, you make the decision. You show her, like, I'm capable of making this decision. I'm capable of showing you a good time. I'll bring you to a nice restaurant. I know what you love and I know what you like. Because we have to remember what they like. And as I'm bad at doing it too, I'm not sitting here like I'm the greatest husband in the world. Like, I fail on a daily basis. But I've learned that, I gave the example the other day. And then I are in the grocery stores. We love Kroger's. We're in Kroger's. There's a bunch of lines. All of them are all filled. And she was like, which cash register should we go to? And in the past, I would say it doesn't matter, and then it's still open. Like there's no decision made. Now I
Mm.
know, I've learned that when my wife says, what are we doing? I was like, okay, let me think about this. I'll have an answer for you. So, am I somewhat correct?
I mean, if I ask, yeah, making more concrete decisions or not coming to your spouse with making all the decisions. We talked last week about the mental load, and that's kind of like, I'm going to the grocery store, what do you need? Versus, I was thinking for dinner we would have this and have a specific thing. Is that okay? And instead of just doing a blanket, oh, it doesn't matter, or what should I clean? Or you see something
Yeah.
that's dirty, clean it. Like it's just it
Yeah.
would be appreciated.
Yeah, because in my head when I asked, like, and I know, we're getting company. What can I help with? In my head, it sounds romantic, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
You're
I,
being useful. You're trying
yeah,
to be
yeah,
useful.
yes.
Yeah.
But that puts more work on her because now she has to think about things for me to do, right? Instead of like, hey, and I
Yeah.
came home from the gym. I
Yeah.
unloaded the dishwasher. I reloaded it. I vacuumed a little bit, and I didn't have time to do anything else. I think that to her is more.
I didn't have to tell him to do it.
Yes, it's more of value than me going to her asking what to do. And
Hmm.
most men are not comfortable taking that because we do want to be leaders, but
Well, it involves communication. You
Yeah.
said that women are better at communicating
yeah,
typically than men.
yeah. I think men should listen more. Like
There's also yeah. There's some more.
we should listen more. We I'll give an example, and I didn't tell Ann this. It's about the pants. I can tell a story. Right? You got new pants for us from Amazon.
I did.
Yeah. So Anne will put in research when she'll buy something. She'll read the reviews. Like she'll look at
Hmm.
how long do they last. Like she'll put all of this work in. I came home one day from work. I was tired. I came home.
Hmm.
She was so excited about these pants because she did so much research. We needed new pants. Dude, I could
What
care
type of pen was it?
less what
What type of pants?
I could care less what colors the pants are, what type of pants they are. I could care less if I'm cooking on a green stove matching on a red kitchen in orange pots. Like I could care less about these things. However, my wife put in all of this time making sure that we'll have good pans, pans that are stick free and that will last us a long time so she could cook meals for us. I came home, she was like, Miguel, do you want to see the pants I got? Dude, I'm tired. I just want to use the
Well,
restroom.
you had to pick the pans and bring them in.
Yeah. But that's not
Yeah.
a problem, right? But I didn't really care. But then I realized, like, this woman put so much time and energy in making this decision so she could cook me food. The least she could do is listen to her explain how great these things are
Hmm.
because she put so much work in it. It would be the equivalent of me going to the gym, getting a new PR, right? Coming home being all
Being
excited.
excited.
She
Hmm.
could care less, right? Like she could care less about it, but she listens to me. And we need to listen more. We need to listen more to our spouses.
Yeah.
We need to listen more to our wives because those things matter to them.
But it goes both ways. You know, Miguel, he is really interested in some things, and his course, his personal training course, and I
Hmm.
tried to show interest in that. Show interest in what your partner is showing interest in. You know, I don't.
Yeah, because like I think there's a big problem with people on like Tinder or whatever. They're looking for people with the same interests. I think I saw this on YouTube. That's not the key. It's enjoying that person enough to listen to their interests, to just to be a little bit interested in what they're interested in. You don't have to have the same interests. It's more about your ethics and your morals together.
Yeah.
Like, do you think the same?
Yeah.
Do you believe, can you grow together?
Yeah.
Interest will follow, right? You might even find some things you'll be interested in together,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So,
we need to be open minded and not so close guarded to just guard. You know, it feels like in this day and age, like men and women, we're basically competing against each other. That's what it feels like to me. It's like the women are like, we could do everything the man could do, and then we don't need
Yeah.
men. And to be fair, I don't hear as much complaining on the men's side. To be fair,
Women are more vocal.
yeah. So women have all of these movements, feminism and all of these things going on. Where men, we're just trying to.
You have movement going on right now.
Oh yeah, the whole Andrew Tate. I will say but that's the thing. Like I said, we overcorrect.
There are communities out there for men. They're just
Yeah.
very dark and quiet.
Yes.
Like the red pill
Yeah.
and the black pill community.
She-Hulk touched on that television series.
I don't remember.
Do you remember? She was getting like trolled.
Oh yeah. But also, a lot of men are not being recognized, right? Because we live in the internet age right now, where you could post pictures on Instagram, and then you have like these guys that make a lot of money, right? You have the ballers of the world with their Lamborghini and stuff like that post their pictures, their wealth, and a lot of women flock to that as well, right? Because obviously wealth status and stuff like that. And then your quiet person, the average guy, he doesn't get DMs, right? He doesn't get the attention. So now he's competing against these 1% guys that they call them. They call them 1%, the 1% earners, the guys that make $250,000 a year, which is a very small pool. And there's the statistics. I don't know the numbers, but the top 1% guys sleep with most of the women, and most of the women share these 1% men. Some of them know that, yes, he's a baller, he's got all of this company, he's probably going to sleep with other women as long as I'm his main chick. There's this...
It's like that in Suriname, isn't it?
A little bit, yes.
Because it feels like there's more women than there are men. So it feels like there's no?
So
it feels like
in
there's an
Suriname?
unwritten rule. It
No.
feels like there's an unwritten rule with the women that there's so few men that they don't mind sharing.
No, it's the pool of men they want. So in America, most women want a guy that's 6 feet or 6 feet and taller. If you take the whole population and see the percentage, that's like 1%. And then
This is so ridiculous.
Yeah, and out of that 6%, out of that 1% of 6 feet men, they want a guy that makes $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, which is another 0.5%.
They don't care.
But
Right?
Some women don't even care. Like,
no, yeah.
he might be the ugliest guy in the world, the most broke guy in the world. As long as he's over 6 foot tall, that's who she'll have.
Not necessarily even that. So as someone who is a part of the 6 foot community and is 6 foot, half of the men I dated were shorter.
How's the weather up there?
Half of the men I dated were shorter than me. Half of the men I dated were my height, or like dated, or like or taller. Like it's to me, height didn't matter. And I think, like you're saying, what women want. Well, I'm a woman, and I'll tell you what I want.
But you're like an exception. Like, well,
how do you know that though?
Let me explain.
My girlfriend is taller than me.
Yeah, and that's fine.
There are exceptions. I also say this, right?
Yeah.
When me and Anne met, there are some days that I didn't have like money to go see her in the city because I didn't have money for gas or whatever, right? And she'll be like, "Hey, I'll spot you," right? Like, or we would go to dinner sometimes, and sometimes she would pay, sometimes I would pay, right? Like, but I feel like in this current dating culture, it's expected, right? It's almost expected that the man does all of these things. Like, a lot of women.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think so. I think the first date, this is just a personal rule, the man pays.
Okay.
The man pays first date every time. That's where women take advantage of it, because if they're having a first date every night of the week, they can get free meals. But if you're seeing someone on a consistent basis, I think, especially once it turns into a relationship, it generally goes 50-50.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Because modern women have jobs, they have their own money, they have their own independence.
And what does the woman want?
No man to rely on.
They just want to hang out with their boyfriend And if
Yeah.
their boyfriend, like, if this is what they want, if it doesn't fit, then the woman is like, well, I want to do this. And just because you can't pay for it right now doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it, because I can. I want to go to Subway. Like, this is what I
Yeah.
want. But then also, like,
But I suppose for 8 years ago, that would be quite modern, quite forward thinking, because it's nowadays it's no problem for it to be 50-50, but where were we 8 years ago?
I
It must have been quite
maybe
different for you because
pre-COVID.
as a
maybe
man,
yeah. Maybe it's the content I'm consuming, because whenever I see these videos on YouTube, like all of the women are like, no, like the guy pays, and the guy pays, and the guy pays, and the guy does this, and the guy does that. And so it's like,
I
yeah,
can't.
those sound like some entitled women.
yeah,
I can't speak for all women because we're all different.
yeah.
But I remember seeing this video once about, would you rather date a guy with a six-pack or would you rather date a guy with a dad bod? And people chose the dad bod because they're like, if the person has a six-pack, they're spending all their time in the gym and they're not going to pay me any attention. See, what they wanted was just like, I want attention and I want to feel not guilty for eating ice cream. Like, that's what the women was basically like. They're like,
You know what
I don't need a guy with a six-pack.
So
I'm not talking.
I'm sorry.
I'm not
Go ahead.
I want, and so we're talking about what women want. I mean, we're wanting a companion. Now, some women definitely, a salary is something that's going to draw them to them. I can't speak. Yeah, and for some guys, there's some aspects about women. We all have this list of things that we want in a partner, and some people's lists are very long, and some people's lists are very short. Now, someone that has gone on dates, I do like it when my door is held open. I do like that. I don't like, and that's typically more of a gender role thing. I do like it when, the door is held open, guy's really polite. Now that we're married, we have, technically there is no his money, my money. Our money is all together. But if we're at a restaurant, Miguel typically pays, but
It's still our money.
it's still
it
our
goes to one
money.
bank
He
account.
technically pulls out his wallet,
Yeah.
but instead
It's
of
our
me,
money. I will say this.
but I don't know.
When we were dating in the beginning, I didn't have, I didn't get paid a lot, and I was just upfront with her, like, hey, I can't do this, or hey, I can't do that, or she was like, you want to hang out this weekend? I was like, I can't. I was like,
We also lived an hour apart.
Yes.
And so there's the fuel consumption to think about. I also didn't own a car.
Yeah, and I would say like, hey, I can't, and she'll be like, well, I got gas money.
I want
And
to
man,
hang out with you.
and I was like,
Cutie.
I can't. I can't do that. I can't. But then I was like, you know what? She wants to hang out with me, and I already told her that I don't have the money, and if she wants to, this woman is something else. And but like I said, it's okay, man. Like I hope that
I
she
was like
saw
that
potential
initially,
in me.
Do you know how long ago it changed for me?
Mm.
When I was with Dewena. There was one time she asked me to go to the cinema,
Mhm.
and I didn't have any money. I was like, oh, I can't go. And then she ended up coming back to visit me, and she showed me this new pair of jeans she got. She'd just she'd been to the Levi's store, bought some Levi's for like $80 or something. I was like, what? You had the money to go? She was like, she didn't want to force me because I was still in that mindset of thinking, right, the guy has to pay for every date and
Yeah.
whatever. But since after that moment, whenever she asked me to go, I say, yeah, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Because it was like, yeah, she had access to more money than I did,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so since then, it's probably why I'm a bit more
Yeah.
accepting of women to spend money on a guy than I would have been in the past.
Yeah. That had me
So
thinking.
that's like 10 years ago
Yeah.
or longer, 11 years ago.
That had me thinking as well. Like you catch what you bait with, right? So let me break down this thought here. There are some guys, I have friends on Facebook that they'll
Yeah.
take pictures of them holding like US dollars, and they'll make pictures of their gold chains and their watches and like all of these material things, right? What you're basically doing there is like, hey, look at all of these great things I have. Come here. Right? Now, if there's a woman out there that's all they're interested in, that's all you're going to get. So once all of those things fade, now you have a woman that you baited with all of these flashy things. right? And if you can't keep supporting her with those things, then that's why she came in the first place, right?
Mm.
So in the end, you catch what you bait with. Now, if you're just upfront and honest and say like, hey,
I'm a brokey.
yeah, oh yeah, maybe I'm a brokey or I work really hard, and that's the one thing I hope
Yeah.
Anne saw in me. It's like it's the potential. Like I hope she could see that I'm driven. I'm a hard worker and all of these things, and one day I'll give her the life that I have in my head, that I want to give her. And all I need is a chance that this woman's going to give me, even though I have nothing right now.
Well, I think also like my culture growing up is very much not that. I'm from the Midwest. We have this stereotype of, I don't know, kind of like middle of the, like salt of the earth, but like, I don't know. It's hard to voice the Midwestern stereotype. But like, if someone likes my clothes and someone compliments my clothes, the very first thing I will tell them is if I got it on sale or not. If I saved money buying this outfit, like I have a new shirt that I've recently got, and I've gotten a lot of compliments when I've worn it, and it was free. And that's the first thing I tell people. I'm like, oh, it was free. I'm so excited about the fact that it didn't cost money. But then Miguel, and through interactions with other people, it's like, that's not something that would necessarily say was Cernavi's culture.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say like, oh, it was 50% off.
Yeah.
Or, oh,
you would exaggerate
it was free. You would
be
be like, oh, it was this much money.
It's not original, yeah, original.
It's the first thing I say is like, oh yeah, it cost me $5, or like this one was super cheap and I had this really great deal on it. But because my list, the material things were not anything on my list. What I was looking for in a partner, height was not on there. Like I said, I dated shorter people, I dated taller people. As long as the shorter person didn't make it like a competition or didn't like to the overcompensating
Call you mommy.
for it. Like, if there was something that was making them very like, I'm very aware, hyper aware that I'm shorter than you. If they owned it, that was fine. But Christian was number one. The Bible says, and I think it's very important, you can compromise on a lot of things in relationships, but your faith should never be something that you compromise on. And so for me, number one had to be a Christian. And number two, didn't smoke. I would like it, I don't consume a lot of alcohol, not because of religious reasons, but just I don't consume a lot of alcohol. I don't like the taste. Mm-hmm. And so it'd be nice if they didn't get drunk all the time. That would definitely be a turn off for me, but yeah. Christian,
and I checked all those boxes.
And he checked all those boxes. And by Christian was like actually active in the faith, not just a cultural Christian. And one of the first things that Miguel asked me to do was he has to go to church with me. Yeah. And that was just a huge thing. And then he started translating for me. I think definitely Miguel's knowledge of the English language helped. I don't know how well we would have dated.
He's always been pretty good with English.
If he wasn't a good English speaker. Because I was... Mijn Nederlands is niet zo goed.
Okay, I have a question. So,
yeah,
I'm going to ask this to the lady in the room.
A lady.
What are some acceptable gender roles?
It's hard because it's like, it's so situational. That's the thing. It's so situational. Like, what situation are you talking about? And does it apply to all people?
So
it's so hard to say, because today, it's, back in the day, this question would have been easier. But more women are in the workforce, more women have more educational opportunities, more couples have both people working. It's just society has changed so much. And culturally, what is a gender role here will be completely different from like a cultural role in gender role in Africa. And that's in a country or like the Middle East. And so I'm
even
only
in the
working
West,
from,
in non-straight couples, like gay couples, what are the gender roles in that? What do they do?
Yeah.
I don't think I can talk about this.
So.
No.
I do know somebody, but yeah, we had conversations, but I can't talk about it.
But yes. So it's hard to say what specific gender roles are. We have friends where the guy's the cook. We have, if the guy likes to do laundry, fine. We have friends that are single females and adult females, and they do it all. And so it's really hard. We did find like things that we digged in this week to what like Christian women and Christian men, what kind of their roles are for each other. But that once again, not everyone is Christian.
Yeah.
And so it's hard. What I did learn, so I went to the Global Leadership Summit, or I attended one of the sites of the Global Leadership Summit, and I need to watch some of the other speakers. What one person said was the good trait of a good leader is saying, I notice you matter. So I notice this about you, and you matter. And so I think it's not necessarily gender role, it's just a human role, is to not degrade the other gender, or say like we watched that video saying you don't need it. We need men, we need women.
So what do you think, Cal?
I agree with all of that Nan just said. Like the lines are so blurred now because we don't really have a choice. It's whoever has the time to do the things that need to be done. You know, like
So no gender roles?
Even well, I don't.
I'd say maybe changing a car tire. All right, a wheel.
What
Getting
if
a
it's
spare wheel.
girls?
A man.
All the girls, and then the tire.
Okay, so I'll say this.
They know how to change a tire.
Yeah, I think women are 100% capable of changing a tire.
No, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, but you're capable, right?
I'm capable of it. I should learn how to do it. I'd watch a YouTube video.
Yeah. Women are capable
You can
of
wreck
being
a car.
mechanics.
You can wreck the door sills if you put the jack in the wrong place. You can do a lot of damage to the car if you do.
That's why I would see what Miguel said before is that I am an avid researcher. So I would research and watch many a video on how to do it.
I think
my contribution.
I don't know.
And I've seen Miguel change.
I don't think there is
tires a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because it's even hard to be like, I talked about dating. I really like it, and some people are like, men should always hold the doors open for women, and I like that. I like when the door is held open for me. I like when my husband holds my hand. When my husband is not afraid to show PDA in public. I do like that. However, maybe not all women do.
Yeah.
Maybe women don't like having the door held open for them, so it's hard to say that.
I suppose it's like like what I said before, like the guy paying on the first date.
Okay.
I think that's acceptable.
Okay, I have a question. You're in your house. It's you, Naomi, Alice, Jonah, for example, your mom, right? It's you, Jonah, Alice. There's a mob breaking into your house. What are the roles in that moment?
Okay, the men.
Why?
The men fight. We have to protect.
Why?
Our women and children.
But it's situational. Because what if there's like, I've seen some like, the man is disabled.
If it's a bunch of women,
the man is in a wheelchair.
Obviously, you can. Mulan, right? Mulan. Her dad was disabled. I'm talking about able-bodied men, right? I'm talking about men in the house, right? In your house, okay? That's why I'm asking, what are acceptable gender roles? Is that a gender role?
The men protect?
Yeah.
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 Yes. But it's always like yes with an asterisk because I don't know, like I said, it's what men have compared to what women. I've talked about that. Like, men are on the average, like I would say, physically stronger than women. I'm not gonna lie, Miguel is stronger than me. He is.
Okay.
But it's not that the woman shouldn't also try and protect, right?
But she shouldn't have to because it's our duty as men. Okay, so I believe this.
But I think protection's inherently human, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you hear of women say rescuing their children from crash cars and.
I think there are roles for a reason. I think that there are certain roles that need to be performed by men. Not saying that women should do it, but only if their
Mm.
men are not available to do it. Then obviously somebody has to do it, right? I also think that men, we have to protect our wife, our children, our community against other bad men because there's bad people out there, right? Now, I'm not saying that women can't do that, but we have testosterone. Like our muscles, our body density, not body density, or bone density, like everything is different. Like we're physically stronger than women, so we have to protect
Yeah.
at all causes, right? Like my wife was a teacher. They did the drills. Like if somebody comes here in the school with a shotgun or whatever, she's gonna have to protect those kids. Like,
Mm.
so yes, it is true. It is situational. But if there are other men in that building, should she have to?
No, I don't think so.
And is it wrong if she does, if she wants to?
No.
So, and I think this is where the problem is. I think the problem is that even though, I think about these rules black and white, I think I am also at fault here because sometimes I think that if they do, it's wrong because it's my role. Does that make
Mm.
sense? So I'm at fault as well. I think the system and the way the world works, it's because this is not conventional and because this is not normal, it's wrong. It's not necessarily wrong. So I also have to check myself in that mindset. But I think that there are gender roles for a reason because, like I said, women are better at certain things than men are, and men are better at certain things than women are. That doesn't mean the woman can't do it. It's just the man is more effective in doing it, and then the woman could use her time and her resources to be more effective in where she needs to be, right? Like I don't think that I could be as nurturing towards a child as my wife can, right? I'm a little bit more rough, like you have to endure, have to go through some pain, you have to go through hardship because this is what the world is. The world is hard. Where I feel like a woman would be a little bit more loving, like come here, you bumped your head, oh, like I'm not. Maybe I'm talking out of term, out of reason or whatever, but that's how I view it. I don't think. Maybe I'm
You
just.
don't know that.
Yeah,
You might be different
yeah, yeah. Maybe.
once you have that little baby in front of you, that toddler who's the world to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Might be different.
No, but I think there's different ways that we go about situations. So I kind of think about my mom
Mm.
and my dad, right? Like my mom was more a little softer. My dad loved me in his own way, but my mom was more, she's a little bit more softer than my dad is, which sometimes I wish I spent more time with my dad because at one point in my life I was a little bit too emotional. I was, I don't want to say, I don't want to sound sexist, but I was almost like a little girl, right? Like, because I'm surrounded by sisters. I was with my mom, and
Mm.
I'm not saying that's wrong, but in certain situations, you cannot let your emotions control you. As,
No.
so if you're emotional all the time, especially as a man, emotional man cause a lot of damage. So it's a good thing we're having these conversations because I haven't figured it out yet either, right? Like we're all figuring it out as we go. And
Yeah.
in the end, it's like the intent behind it. Why are we trying to figure it out? Because we want to be better than the people before us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't want my marriage to fail because my parents split up, right? My parents split up, so I don't want to be that person, like I'm not a perfect human being. I've made mistakes, but we're trying to figure it out. Society, as it is right now, it's basically crumbling. Like there's so many dysfunctional relationships right now because, like I said,
Mm.
men are competing with women are competing with men. We're trying to outdo one another instead of coming together as one. Being a Christian, I think, that's how God intended it to be, for us to be a unit, to be one.
I think social media says stuff like that too loudly. Like I think the majority of people they're just trying to get on with life, in their little households, their families, you got a husband and wife, two kids. The guy's just working, the woman's they're both working, they're trying to look after the kids as best they can.
Yeah,
I think we're just being subjected to so much noise on social media. Um that life isn't as bad as it makes it seem.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking about you were
Come
talking
and
about
boo.
evil people. You're talking about evil men, right?
Yeah.
What about evil women coming into your community? Because I think women have better intuition, where they can, you know, tell whether someone's like being a wrongdoer,
Yeah.
um, without so, because men might not be able to sense that because men are blind, right? You get a pretty girl batting her eyelashes, you'll do whatever you want for
Yeah.
her, right? But a woman might be able to sense that, hey, this girl's up to no good here, you know.
I
Need
I
to,
I think that in this day and age, women are allowed to have standards. Like, they could have all of these standards, which is fine. But like most of the time when a man has standards, he's labeled a misogynist. Most of the time. Or he's
oh, you mean like have a woman with a low body count
or
or
just
somebody that takes care of themselves,
yeah, somebody that goes to the gym. Like, for example, for
someone
me,
that doesn't sleep around,
yeah,
all that
right?
stuff.
But
Yeah.
if a man has those standards, usually he's crucified for it. Because he's not flexible and open minded enough. Um, where women could have all of these standards and then they're
I think
glorified for it.
I think feminism is lying to women, saying, "Oh, you
I
can be
think so.
sexually free, sleep with as many men as you want,
Yeah,
and there's no repercussions." Because well, it also has to do with birth control. You know, that's a thing that exists.
yeah,
That it means sex has no consequences anymore.
no.
Which I don't think that's a good thing.
I
But
think based on like I saw the social media. I heard through
Yeah.
the thing. We have to also keep in mind with social media is that people want a reaction from it. And so the things that
Hmm.
they say are usually amplified
yeah,
because they're not going to say, their social media business or their notoriety grows from people reacting, sharing to their content. And so things that they say, it's like, yeah, but I know this is going to get a ton of reactions. And some of
yeah,
these reactions might be negative and some of them be positive, but they're reactions. And the reactions that will help push this channel or my name
yeah,
forward.
yeah. But there are also surveys. There are surveys out there that you can look up that the court system or is usually favored for toward the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I would
Yeah.
say there's probably more single mothers than single fathers.
Yeah.
Raising families. There are single fathers.
Sorry, what was that?
I'd say there's probably more. When you think of a single parent, you tend to think of a
Hmm.
single mother. There are single fathers, but I think that
Yeah.
there are more single mothers than single fathers.
There's the statistics.
Yeah.
There's the statistic though. And you can look it up if you want, because you might not agree with me on this. But single mom households, there are more criminals and kids that go to jail coming from single mother households than there are from single father households.
Hmm.
I mean, of course, I would ask to have your research,
Yeah.
but I know that having male and female role models that you are growing up with is very important. That's one of the reasons why having male teachers, that's a huge thing for male teachers, is because, if you have no father figure in your household, having
You
that
start looking at gangs.
can be very helpful. Just a
Yeah.
reliable father figure. You know,
I think that's a big problem in the black communities in America. You know, living off the welfare system, and then they've got nobody to look up to in the household, so they're looking
Towards
who are the male
yeah.
in the neighborhood, the gangs.
And I think boys are
That's sad.
inherently they kind of want to be in power. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Did you ever feel like this growing up? Like you kind of wanna have that respect from other people. Did you ever have that feeling?
women want
No,
to
I
be
don't think
respected
so.
too. I think that
Respected.
everyone wants to be
I don't know.
respected.
No.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to be a doormat. I don't know. It's not something I've ever really thought
Yeah.
about.
So, but would you not say that the reaction from a man being disrespected has more consequences than a woman being disrespected?
Hmm. You mean like more violence?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Because, like my wife said the other day, like a woman can cause so much damage with what comes out of her mouth, and a
Mm.
man can cause so much damage with his physical attributes, right?
Mm.
I think one of the, if men are in positions about anyone, I've noticed that through history and just like in society, power has a very high temptation to corruption. Like once you have power, how do you use
Mm.
that power? And a lot of people start out with noble causes, but then they want to hold on to power so bad that they start, it corrupts them a little bit. We have that in like the Lord of the Rings. But we also, it's something to keep in mind is that if you are given a position of power, you need to have humility with you. And that
Mm.
power can't become an idol in your life. And so even if you have the power in your marriage, or if you have the leadership of your marriage, you can't let that corrupt you, where you cling to that more than the needs of your partner. Jesus is omnipotent, ultimate power, but Jesus washed his disciples' feet. He kept that humility through his life on earth, even dying for everybody. He had the power to turn everyone into lizards if he wanted to. Insta kill, like brain fire,
Yeah.
if he could, and he didn't. And so it's something we see in the Christian church. It's something we see in society. It's something we see with our leaders, in the government. It's just you're so desperate to keep that power going that
Yeah.
what has that done?
I have a question for you then. So, with power corrupting, right? So, I honestly think that feminism started with noble intentions, clear intentions,
Mm.
because women were not even considered second class citizens at one point, right? In certain part of the world, just like you said. What?
Not even citizens.
Oh, not even citizens, right? And so this movement started to start empowering women so they could have their rights and stuff like that. But do you think that over time it got corrupted?
Yeah, I think that's what happens. Like there's so much of a good thing and it starts out well, but then it can start to get corrupted over time. I I think that feminism can be a good thing. I think if what we're talking about is lifting up women, then I think like if we're lifting up women to bring down men, I don't necessarily think I think that's corrupting it a little bit. Why, when you're picking someone up, it should never be you're picking someone up and as a result you're putting someone down.
Yeah.
If you're lifting each other up, if you're empowering people, that shouldn't be as a result of degrading someone else.
Yeah, it's changed into man hating for some reason.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
I don't know why.
the men are trying to retaliate now. That's why you have that whole movement now against like the whole toxic masculinity that's going on.
But I think you're right, as you say. It's probably it's overcorrecting
Yeah.
because men probably, yeah, they probably did have privilege. They had easier access to jobs, and it's just overcorrecting.
Also, more
Like it'll,
safety. I noticed
yeah.
it in Suriname. I had single male coworkers, and I was a single female coworker, and like they were able to they had more freedom. They had more freedom with where they could go than
Mm.
I did, because it was okay for them, but it wasn't safe for me necessarily. And that, I clung to my independence a lot during that time, and that was a really, really hard thing for me to get used to. The fact where it's just like we're the same age, same level of education, but because I'm a woman, like I'm not able to experience those things. And so that made it really hard. Like they went to the World Cup in Brazil, and I really wanted to go to the World Cup in Brazil, but they were like,
Yeah.
you need to go with women. Like it was a boys' trip, and that's fine and dandy, but I didn't have any women that wanted to go with me, and it wouldn't have been as safe.
That's why I keep saying
Yeah.
most of the things it is men's fault, because Because if more men were respectful towards women, and there were no bad men out there, it would be a little bit more of a safer place. But
Why? This is so. You just remind me of like what possesses people to think it's okay to do horrible things. Like to rape a woman or to stab someone, to shoot someone. There was recently two teenagers recently got sentenced here in the UK for stabbing another 16-year-old, and they showed the footage of the guy being chased. Like he wasn't chased; he was just walking, and you see a teenager running with a samurai sword, and they just stab him. And he was the wrong guy. They were trying to stab his friend, and they mistook him for his friend.
mm,
This innocent 16-year-old boy just stabbed. Like, why would a 16-year-old think it's okay to stab another 16-year-old? What are these people thinking?
It's an
What is
evil. We don't live in a perfect world, a world that is full of imperfect people, and there's evil. And I mean, I it, sin and evil, wanting to hurt other people.
because
It
it would be
stinks.
lovely if women could just walk out at night
yeah,
and not be
And
it.
in some places they maybe can,
Yeah.
in some places they can, but it is
Apparently
setting,
Dubai is
especially
good
if
for
you're
that.
by yourself. Like downtown Paramaribo, I was very told, like, do not go by yourself when it is dark. Go with a group of people. And so sometimes, like, I would be at Etfat on, what is that, Waterkant?
Waterkant, yeah.
Waterkant, but I would be with a group of my female friends. And it was very much like we stand together. No
Mm.
one goes anywhere by themselves.
I mean, it's undisciplined boys become undisciplined men, right? So if you don't have a structure at home, like you said, you look up to other people and you want to belong. Everybody wants to belong to a community. I don't think we were meant to be alone. I think we were meant to have some type of community. Whether you're in a relationship or not, like you need a community around you, and your community built you. Your community influenced you, right? Like the people you grow up with. And some of these kids maybe don't have anybody, right? So they're influenced by other people that have been hurt by other people that have been hurt by other people, right? So it's just one thing I've learned is never to say I would never do that, because there's a lot of things I said I would never do, and I was pressed into a corner. I was in a specific situation where I just didn't have any other way out, and I just gave into the emotions at the time, or that's why we talked about the other time, like learn to control your emotions, like especially for men, because we're testosterone filled, like we're violent, and there's sometimes we have to be violent, right? Like if you think back in the day, all of those conquerors, people that went to war, like even now, like if you go to war, you have to at some point be violent. There's a place for those emotions and those chemicals.
Mm.
But the problem is most men don't know how to control it. They just let it go. It's like a wildfire, because they don't have anybody teaching them, guiding them. It's okay. It's okay to have that fire, because it's part of your anatomy, your body composition,
Mm.
right? Your biology. It's okay to have that fire, but you need to be able to control that fire. And a 16-year-old boy who wants to prove to his friends, like, I belong in this club. I don't have anybody who loves me. My mom's not here. My dad's not here. Everybody's gone. I have this group of people. I need to be in their club, right? So what do you need me to do? I want to belong. Well, so and so disrespected me. Let's go get him. Can I count on you? Yeah. It's sad. Like when I see all of these music videos, as well, they're talking about guns and sex and drugs and all of these things, and the media makes it sound cool to be gang banging, right?
Mm.
I don't know what they call it in England, but in America, you're a gang banger, right? It's cool. It's not. It's stupid. But yeah, I think there's a lot. It's not just one thing. There's a lot of things. It's poverty. People are hungry. Poverty. People are hungry. People are lonely.
Desperate.
Desperate.
Because
Yeah.
it's just. I wish we had world peace. I wish there wasn't wars, and I wish there wasn't as much conflict and division. And it's hard for me to wish those things when I'm acknowledging also that I'm an American, and I'm living in land that was won through fighting. So it's hard now that in the modern world, the weapons have gotten a little bit more dangerous, and I wish that there was not fighting. We try to build up what we have.
What do you think?
What you mean?
The question. What do you think about what do you think?
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's now that you've said that, it makes a lot of sense to me. Like, it's probably what we were talking about before, where the father might not be at home.
Yeah.
He's because in England you get money off the state for raising kids, without a father. So the children don't really have anyone to look up to. So it's a massive problem here, the knife crime. I don't know, a lot of teenagers stabbing each other, and I don't really know
gun violence
what's gonna.
in America is a problem. We keep having mass shootings.
Yeah.
But guns.
Yeah, I saw those buckets.
Yeah.
Those buckets.
If you take the guns away, there's machetes, there's knives, right? So it's not the object, it's the people. Yeah, no, but I feel like that's a topic for another podcast. But yeah, so did we come to a conclusion what are accepted gender roles and what are not? Are there certain things that are still expected of men to do? I personally think that we should take each other's feelings into consideration, right? Like, we should love our wife, and our wife should respect us, because it's not the same thing. The respect towards our husband equals love, and a wife, when she says she wants you to love her, you love her, and obviously you respect her as well. But the respect is a little bit more for a man. The respect will make a man do crazy things. Like, if a man feels disrespected, he could lose his mind, right? But where if a man is not loved, it's just
I would like to read. We had looked up from Core Christianity. It says 6 things a Christian wife should give her husband, and I don't have to read the details of it, but it says number 1, companionship. So be a good companion. 2 is love. It is on the list. I do think love is important. We're commanded to love everyone, and that's true in marriage. 3 is respect. So you should give them respect. And it references a Greek word. Number 4 is help. Help. And then 5 is devotion. So being faithful to her husband. Praying for your husband. Being there for your husband. And then self-respect for yourself. So, am I disrespecting? Because I can be very self-critical about appearance and just me being a mistake and all of that stuff. Am I giving respect to Miguel's judgment because he chose to marry me? And does he have good taste in that? Because then why would he marry somebody that is scummy and ugly? Things that I tell myself. So self-respect is taking care of myself is a way that I can show respect to your husband. What does your list say? Miguel says 6 things a Christian husband should give to their wife.
Love. Second one is respect.
Yes.
Spiritual leadership. So I have to make sure she is
our family.
Yeah.
But also because through you, knowing that you also.
Devotion. That should be devoted to her. Enjoyment. So
Hmm.
yeah. So I don't know. Obviously we're Christians, and like sometimes I'll post Facebook videos of us where we're like laughing and we're just having a grand old time. We weren't. We built up that relationship through trials and errors and mistakes and hurting each other and learning, right? So it's no longer a competition. Because we talked about, you make 200K, I'm making 250K. And I was like, you know
Yeah.
what, Miguel, you're wrong. Like, like you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's not a competition. And I'm happy you calling me out on that, saying how stubborn I was. I appreciate that. Because I was stubborn, right? I was stubborn in that. I'm not letting it go. Like, I'm a man. um, but no, it's not a competition. I still believe that I should, keep working hard,
Hmm.
be strong, protect, and all of these things. If she doesn't want to work, she doesn't have to. But I don't want her to need to. Like she shouldn't have to if she doesn't want to, right? I should
Yeah.
give her that freedom to do whatever she wants. If she wants to be a singer, a painter, if she wants to tend the garden, she should have that freedom. It's my job to make sure that she has those options. I still believe that. Am I there? No, I'm not. Right? But I'm 100%
Hmm.
working towards it. But I think we should stop competing. I think we should stop blaming each other for the past, what happened, why feminism started. There's a reason why it started, because yes, men, we were unfair to women. We weren't treating them right. I agree.
Yeah.
But I also need the women to understand that we're not in that day and age anymore, and they shouldn't hate us for what happened in the past, right? And more men need to understand why women are overcorrecting, and we need to stop overcorrect in everything, including me. I need to be more in the middle because I'm either black or white. So yeah, I think we should respect each other. We should learn each other, learn from each other, love each other, instead of competing with each other. Because I feel like that's what's going on right now. Men are competing, or women are competing against men, which is not how God intended it to be. God intended us to have what's the word? Join.
It says, if at possible, live at peace with everyone.
Yeah.
In the Bible.
Yeah. If possible.
Okay, maybe just specifically to relationships. You know, anyone that still believes that women belong in the kitchen, that's very childish. Like you're a team. Just
Yeah.
do what you can to help each other out,
Yeah.
because life is hard enough outside of the household
Yeah.
to think like that still.
And a lot of
Yeah.
high-profile chefs are men.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not necessarily
Mm.
just in the household, but that's more of a career-based thing.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please considering giving us a like. Please consider subscribing. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. If you have any questions, you could always send us an email or anything. If it's either a suggestion, something you want us to talk about, just shoot us an email. Kelvin's gonna put that on the link below.